So for anybody who's been paying attention to what's been happening for the last couple of days across the country, your main takeaway from all of this should be that the police in this country are lawless, out of control, and gratuitously violent routinely. And once you understand that, you understand why people are so angry in the streets. You understand why these protests are so widespread that they're taking place in dozens of major cities across the country. You understand that we live in a police state, which is where the police are above the law, above reproach. They're accountable to no one. And that is authoritarianism, which is the exact opposite of the democracy that people claim we have in this country. Just this weekend alone, I have seen dozens, maybe even over 100 separate instances of the police whose job is technically to protect people, and that includes peaceful protesters who are exercising their First Amendment right. I have seen these police officers dozens of times just this weekend alone instigate violence, being gratuitously violent to people. There are videos of them running over protesters. There are videos of police officers driving by protesters and opening their doors to hit them. There are videos of police officers intentionally targeting journalists and reporters who are live on air, shooting them with rubber bullets and pepper bullets, tear gassing them, in some cases just arresting them and their camera crew. I've seen police officers knock people over with their horses that are just standing there. There are videos of them just ganging up and beating the shit out of people on the street. You have 5, 6, sometimes 10 police officers beating and kicking the shit out of somebody who's on the ground and hitting them with batons. There are videos of police officers just showing up on the scene of peaceful protesters and opening up fire on the people in the crowds. Absolutely none of this is legitimate policing. Absolutely none of this is legal. Like I said, I've seen maybe 100 videos in just the last couple of days alone of police doing this. This is what they're doing on camera, sometimes on live national TV. This is what they're doing on camera, ironically, as people are protesting across the country against police brutality. So this shows you that they don't care. It shows you that they are lawless. They know they're lawless, and they're unaccountable to anyone, which is why they behave like this, because they know there isn't anybody who's going to check them on this. The politicians are in the pocket of the police departments a lot of the time. And I keep mentioning that I've seen these dozens of videos of the police acting this way just in the span of a couple of days, because that is very telling. This is how they act when they're on camera. And it's not like the only time the police are ever interacting with the communities are in instances like this. The police are on the street every single day. They are out on the street behaving like this, and I'm willing to guess the overwhelming majority of the time there aren't witnesses. They aren't on camera. So the situation of the police state in this country is a lot worse than people realize. And people like to pretend like these separate instances where we see the police murdering people on camera and the police behaving in an entirely indefensible way, brutalizing the people they're supposed to be protecting. When we see those things, a lot of people across the country like to say these are just bad apples. These are just one-off instances. You can't make a judgment of policing in America based solely on these videos. But the point I'm making is, there's several counters to that. One, like I said, we've seen just this weekend how they behave on camera, and it's irreverent and unbowed. So like I said, imagine what they're doing when they aren't on camera. And more than that, about the bad apples argument, all of that went out the window this weekend. When we saw entire police departments and entire precincts mobilize to violently break up protests, lawful, peaceful protests across this country. All of this, oh, it's just a couple bad police officers, but the rest of them are really good people. All that went out the window because, like I said, all those instances of police violence and police brutality, it wasn't just one police officer who was engaging in that on peaceful protesters. It was the entire precinct. And anybody who felt uncomfortable, any police officers who felt uncomfortable with it, none of them stepped up and did anything about it. It's illegal for police to assault people period. It's illegal for the police to assault people, which is what they were doing this entire weekend. And how many of those good police officers, those good law-abiding police officers that we keep hearing are the good apples, how many of them arrested the police officers who were brutalizing peaceful protesters who were exercising the First Amendment right across the country this weekend? How many of those police officers did that? None of them. So they are all either actively participating in violence, gratuitous violence against peaceful people, or they're helping cover up and protect the people, the police officers who are doing that. So it's hard to make the argument that this isn't a damning indictment of the entire police system across the country, because it's not happening and it's not just Minneapolis, it's not just LA, it's not just New York, it's not just Chicago. We're seeing this across the country. So this is a widespread systemic problem that is not going to be solved by just arresting the officer or the officers who murdered George Floyd. Policing in this country needs to be restructured. And this weekend alone, say you knew nothing about the police, you never had any interactions with the police, you never even heard a story about the police until this weekend. This weekend alone is proof enough that the entire policing system in this country is corrupt, and it needs to be reformed drastically, and it needs to be restructured so that the people in the communities that they're supposed to be protecting have oversight and can hold these police officers accountable when they're acting lawless. So this has been, I can't say it's an eye-opening weekend because I was very aware of how out of control the police are in this country. But it is stunning to see how brazen they are while everyone is watching. At the same time, we're criticizing them for brutalizing people. It's amazing how brazen and unrepentant they are.